So this one's working. So let me switch back over to here. Can you see anything now? And then we'll go ahead and get started. If this camera works, great. If not, I'll switch to the other camera. I've got 3 on me right now. All right, so what we're going to be doing are these pumpkins. And as you can see, I've done a whole bunch here. And every single one of them is different. Oh, hi, Teddy. Cindy says yes. Okay, excellent. So we're gonna get started. If you have orange wool or any kind of wool, really, I mean, I did a white pumpkin. If you have wool and you want to felt along with me, awesome. We're going to be doing 3 different pumpkins though. So I'm going to start with one kind of like this. That's just orange wool. It's probably going to be about this size for tonight. And then the second one I'm going to do is, again, the same thing like this, but it's going to start out with the core white wool. Hi, Joanne. And then I'm going to do a third one, same type of thing, core white wool covered in the orange, and then we're going to just do the top a little bit different. So if you only have enough to make one, or you want to try a couple small ones, that's kind of going to be the setup. So thank you so much for joining me. You'll see that I have this here. People are asking me if they'd be able to support, knowing that it's a free demonstration. So I happily obliged, under no obligation, of course, to donate or anything. This is totally a free thing. I love doing this stuff. But if you're compelled to make a small donation to help the cause, or if you'd like to buy something tonight, you can also pay me that way and I will get you the items. But we can talk about that later. So everything on this table, of course, is available. I don't necessarily keep things all for myself. So if you want something, let me know. If you see something and you have an idea, I do take commissions. Like last year I made candy corn earrings for my cousin, actually, and she really liked those. So I'm going to go ahead and get started clearing this up here and talk about what we need in order to get started. So for that, I'm going to switch. Let's go to this one. Hopefully you can see my face now. And let's go over our materials. So the first thing that you need in order to needle felt is a needle felting pad or sponge. The kits that I make don't necessarily have this because this is kind of big and bulky and it would pretty much double the cost of shipping. However, I do have starter kits that have a sponge and a couple needles and some wool to just get started. The sponge that I buy is this like dense foam, but you can use anything. Actually, the first thing that I ever made was this puppet, and that was in college in a puppetry class. And for that class, the instructor just gave us all those like peanut shaped car sponges, and those worked out wonderfully. So those work out really well. I mean, I've had little tiny like the styrofoamy foam stuff. Those get handed out in kits a lot, so you can see anything that you have that'll work. Burlap filled with rice, so 2 pieces just together, an old pillow, anything that you have works. So therefore, I don't really want to put too much in a package. So that's the foam, and really the biggest reason that you use that is because of the needle. The needles. Let's see if I can get it close enough here. If you can see the very tip, so this part here. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it because this is not a micro camera, but they have, this is a 36 gauge triangle needle, and the needle actually has 3 sides to it, and where those sides meet, they cut these little notches in them, and that's what takes these fibers and interlocks them, and that is how they are able to start taking fluffy foam or fluffy wool and make it more dense into whatever we're making. I want to do a quick check-in. Can everybody see and hear me? It's the first time I've used this setup in my basement, which is my art studio, and I love it. So besides the foam and the needle, you do need some wool, and tonight I am using this wool, which if you look closely, it actually has a bunch of different colors in it. I love this stuff. There's different kinds of wool. So this Here is wool roving. It has really long, beautiful, combed fibers that all go in the same direction pretty much. And these are great, except they're kind of hard to felt into what we're making. So batting is what I use, and this stuff is so nice and fluffy, and the pieces of fiber are really interconnected already, and they're all messed up in different directions, so it makes it super easy to be able to felt up into these 3D different shapes. We're going to start off by making a ball, and then we're going to shape it into a pumpkin. So without further ado, let's get into making pumpkins. I'm going to put my pad here. Just make sure that we are up. Okay. Can everybody see my foam pad? With my hand on it. Okay. There we go. Now I can see things. So we're going to start with just a small pumpkin out of pure orange wool. So if you're going to felt along with me, you're going to take a small piece, and when we're pulling wool, which is what we call it, you're going to hold it in two hands, and you're going to gently pull apart. If you make it really tight, you're going to grab both ends of the same fiber, and it's not going to work so well. So we're going to pull off a piece, and you don't want to get too much in your hands because even this is a little too thick. So I'm going to pull that in half and start like this, because if you start trying to felt up all of this, then what happens is the middle doesn't get felted, and we want the middle is really the base of what we're trying to do. So I'm going to put this on my pad, and I'm going to start at the end where I am, so here, which looks like it's upside down to you, but we could do this either way, so it's okay. And I'm going to do what I call the basic roll. So first I kind of fold it to get it started, and then roll, roll, roll. The sides need to be pulled in, so you can see how much fluff is over here, and the roll kind of ends here. So I'm going to fold that in, and I'm going to get this nice and tight, and I'm going to use my fingers to pinch. So my left hand is pinching, and I am rolling, so I roll and pinch. Now I got this started, and because I'm trying to go for a ball, instead of just pushing together, I'm going to take my left fingers and my thumb and kind of pinch ahead. You can see that, kind of make a croissant shape, I guess. And then roll that whole thing up. Okay, so you're still going to get a little bit of a tube instead of a ball. That's okay. The needle, which I keep in the top corner of my pad, or the bottom corner to you, I keep it there so I always know where it is. If I drop it here, who knows where it goes. I'm going to be fumbling around for it. So I always keep it in the pad. Especially if you're working, I do a lot of work on my couch at night in front of the TV. That's how I unwind. If I put it down anywhere else, it would be in my leg. So I always keep it on the pad in the top corner. That way I know where it is, and that another use for the pad. If you don't have a pad and you're trying to do this like in the air, you're going to stab your fingers. So you can put like a glove on or something, but I highly suggest getting something to stab into. The thickness isn't necessarily that important as long as it's like half an inch, because you want the needle to be able to go through your piece and stick into the pad if you want to like hold it in place. So that's all. Now, in order to stab this piece, I'm going to show you sideways, but I'm going to be doing this mostly up and down. So the motion is just in and out, straight in, straight out. And we're going to keep this piece moving. So stab, 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 turn, stab, 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 turn. And I like to point it away from myself so I don't accidentally stab my fingers. Now I can turn it all over this pad And I don't want to stab too much because I do just want to get it together. And you can see this is starting to come apart. That's okay. I just fold it back together. Stab, 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 turn. The more I turn, the more symmetrical this piece will stay. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. So right now this is really small. That's okay. We're getting close to the size that I'm going to be doing for this demonstration, but we're not there yet. So I'm going to take another piece and see how this kind of came apart. So I'm going to just pull it off, put it to the side. Now I have this piece. I'm going to gently stretch it. Then I'm going to put it down on my pad, then put the piece that I'm working on top of it. I'm going to stab a little bit. So now that's attached kind of like a cape. And then I'm going to roll using the pad to pull against my piece and rolling before I get to the end, rolling those sides in. Stab, stab, stab. This side, stab, stab, stab. And then I can smooth the end. And I'm going to gently stab this piece on just enough so that it stays, because this is the part that we're going to be stabbing into shape. So the first one that we did is the base. The second one is this kind of top coat that we're going to use to stab it together. I'm actually going to make this a little bit bigger because I think it's easier to see. So I'm going to put another piece down, put my piece that I'm working on, and then I'm going to roll a little bit, stab that into place, roll, fold in these sides here, and you'll notice I'm moving my needle in the shape that I'm working in because the wool will go in the direction that you point your needle. So if I'm stabbing this way, this piece is going to go that direction. So I'm trying to stab into a ball, so I want to really point my needle always towards the center of the ball. So if I'm working on a curve, instead of turning the piece constantly, I'm kind of just moving my needle where I want those fibers to go. So here's the other side. I'm using my hands to manipulate the piece. I'm using my needle to manipulate the piece. Okay. And again, I can point it away from me if I'm a little nervous about hitting my fingers. I'm just going to get this into shape, and then I'm going to stop. So normally for like other pieces, like say we were doing this cat, I would say make this base into the shape that you want. But because we are going to be stabbing all these lines into the pumpkin, we want to leave this fuzzy. So I have this nice fuzzy ball, and I am going to now poke in those lines. All right. So the way I start is just kind of find a place that's maybe flat, like right here. And I'm going to make a little dent. I'm going to flip it upside down, and that's now my base. So now on top, I'm going to make another little dent. And now I have two dots. I'm going to connect the dots. And I'm going to keep my needle in line. I'm just going to go stab, 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 dragging my needle along and turning the piece as I'm connecting dot to dot. So now you can see a little dent. Now, this is the part where when I've taught this class now, this is my fourth year teaching this class, maybe third. 2017, 2018, fourth year. And actually I didn't teach the first year. So okay, third year. Third year I'm teaching this. And every single year we get to this part. Every single class, I've taught multiple classes each year, and they call this the butt. So this is the butt phase, where it's two cheeks, or it kind of looks like a peach. But we'll just keep going. So what I like to do is go all the way across. So now I'm going to just follow that line back to this side. And it's pretty much the same. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to turn it 90 degrees, and I'm going to do the same thing going this way. And if your lines aren't showing up as well as mine are, it's okay. I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to do the other quadrant here. You can go back over it. It just means that your wool might not be the same as mine, or you might have felted it more than mine. But we just keep on working on it. Hi, Maria. So now we have 4 pieces And you can see on here, I've got a lot more than that. So now I just go crazy and do as many as I want in whatever area that I want. So I can make these equal, or I can make them unequal, make some fatter, make some thinner, make two lines really close to each other, maybe make one that doesn't even go all the way down to the bottom. This is where you can really add some uniqueness and some character to it. And I think I have one like this white pumpkin here. You can see how many pieces. It actually ends up being, what, 6, 8, there's 8 pieces here. So it is even, but there are some that I did that, where is that? Oh yes, this gray pumpkin, I was playing around with it, and you can see it, there's probably like 12 or 13 of them on here. So you can see how close they are. So really, it doesn't matter from here. It just keep going until you don't want to go anymore. And then you can just go over the lines that you've already done. If you go straight down into it, it will deepen the line, but I highly recommend dragging that at like a 45-degree angle just to mark the line in the first place. Okay, so I'm going to keep going here. Okay, we're stabbing, stabbing, stabbing. Maybe I'll do another one here. Yeah, maybe another one right here. Nice and close. So now I'm going to just deepen some of these lines. As you're working on it, some of them do kind of disappear because you're manipulating it with your fingers and it just kind of rubs away, but that's okay. We just keep going. And sometimes, you know, it just adds character. I'm going to deepen that bottom pit just to help it sit by itself. Otherwise, I might roll over like a ball, which is okay if that's what you want. Now, little bit of a trick. If you are still having problems, I don't do this a lot, but if you're still having problems, and I don't think I even have a sample here to show you. Nope. Okay, well, I'll make one. If you're still having problems seeing the lines, or if you just can't get them right or whatever, take a tiny piece, and this is probably too big. I'm going to draft it out, and I'm going to pull off just like half of this. I'm going to twist this in my fingers. Hi, Alyssa. Hi, Roma. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to roll that. You can roll it in your hands too. And then I'm going to stab this into that top divot. And I'm going to pull into one of those lines. I'm going to stab it into that bottom pit. And then I'm going to just gently stab it into that divot there. So you can kind of see it if you really look. It does give a little bit of character, so sometimes I like to do it. Can't believe I don't have one with me. I must have sold all of those last year. Again, stab. You can twist it too while it's on here. Stab the bottom, and then stab it right through. Alright. And now we're going to make the stem. So you could do that with all of them, you could do it with some of them, you could do it with none of them, the extra little piece. You can see this one almost looks like a triangle, but I kind of like it. Gives a little more natural look. So now for the stem, you can see from around here, I've got a whole bunch of different colors. No, it's not the same. I made a green stem, gray stem, brown stem. There's, you know, all kinds of different pumpkins out there. And especially if you're making like one of these white pumpkins, I mean, it's totally different. So there's no right or wrong. Just do whatever you would like to do. I'm going to turn around to my beautiful wool wall, if you want to see that. Let me see. See all the stuff back here? This is all my wool. I try to keep it separated by color. Gets a little unruly sometimes. But, let's see here. Let's grab some green. Grab some green, and I will grab some of this yellowy brown color. I think I like this one tonight. So let me switch back. And now I'm going to make the stem. For the stem, I'm going to move this out of my way. Now I have a clean pad again. I'm going to do basically the same thing. This is way too big, so I'll use that for another pumpkin as we get to it. And take a little piece. And this width will pretty much be the end width, give or take a little bit. So this is going to be a little bit, about the size of this one, which is okay. I'm going to do that same basic roll. Told you we use it for everything. Start really, really tight. Fold one side in, fold the other side in, roll. I'm going to pull against my pad towards me. Keep rolling, folding in that piece on the side. Roll, roll, roll. So now you can see we're working with a tiny piece. I like to keep the needle along my fingernail. That way, in case I stab myself, it won't actually hurt. I don't stab hard enough to go through my fingernail. If I do, I would have a big problem. So you don't need a lot of pressure on these needles. A lot of people do ask me, how do you know when it's finished? Like any art, I'm going to be that artsy teacher person. You'll know when you know. It's a personal preference, really. However, if you can do this and pull up a piece like this right here, it probably could use some more felting. So I'm going to stab that in. I kind of let the wool speak to me, another total artsy thing to say. But some of the stems come to a point. Some of them are flat. Some of them I end up trying to make like a little divot in there. You can see that. Try different things. This one looks like it's going to be just a kind of a cone, and it's a little bit curved. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to put my pumpkin back on the pad. I'm going to figure out where I want this. Maybe I'll have it going off to the side, and then I'm going to gently stab it. Now if I stab all the way through, my pinky's under here. Trust me, I've done it before. Gentle, shallow stabs. And I'm actually kind of stabbing underneath the stem. That will help get the base of this underneath. If you wanted to kind of splay it out, like I think this one is a good example of that. I kind of did that on purpose. I left it out like that. That's fine. But on this one, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to squish it down and stab. Squish and stab. Then go on the other side. And there we have it. Now, if we want to add some of these little vines, let me show you how we do that. So I'm going to take another tiny piece, tiny itty bitty piece. This is probably make two. Pull that in half. Again, when you're pulling yarn or wool, gentle pulls. And just like we did for the piece along the veins of the pumpkin, we're going to twist this in our fingers, we're going to roll it in our hands, and then the trick to the vines is we're going to stab this underneath the stem. And yes, I do this after I put the stem on, not before. It seems to work better. This kind of anchors it in. And then I'm going to twist, pinch, twist, pinch, twist, pinch. And if I keep twisting and then kind of let it go like that, you see it twists up on itself. And then I'm going to stab it down. So that was a tiny one. I'm going to take a little bit more. Twist, twist, twist in my hands. This way it gets all together. This might be a little long, but yeah, we'll try it. So I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to stab, take the needle, stab underneath the stem. Maria wants a few for decorations for fall. Okay, I'll get moving. I'm actually, you can see how many I have here. If you saw in the beginning, my intention last year, and I ran out of time, but maybe I'll do it this year. I'm going to take all these ones with the gray stems that are about the same size and string them so I can make little garlands. So again, you can see I twist, 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 and then I'm going to lay it down. I stab the end so it stops twisting, and then I kind of lay this down wherever I want and stab that into place. Now if you want to do a leaf, Yeah, the white one is super cool. I did that, and I'll show you how I did that, because I used coral wool for that, and then instead of covering it with the orange, I just left it, and it worked out really well. So for leaves, which are kind of flat, you'd think, oh, it's flat, it's probably easier. But guess what? It's not. The flatter the object without actually doing it as a 2D piece, which is a different skill set, um, which I'm getting into, to make it flat is a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to stab this right into the pad, or whatever I'm using, right in the center. And then I'm going to fold it over. I'm going to stab another side. And then I'm going to take that fringe and fold it back over. And then I'm going to just kind of shape it into whatever shape I want. I'm going to pull it off the pad. So maybe I'll make it very gently. Take all those loose fibers. Yes, above the fireplace with the garland. Oh, I've got one of those this year. I can do that. Stab it right into the pad, gently lift off. Now when you do this, you flip it over, you see a whole bunch of fuzzy pieces on this side. I don't know if you can see that. So I flip it over and stab that down. And then I'm going to flip it back over, because on the other side gets a little crazy. Now I'm not worried too much about the shape right now, because I'm going to put this back up here, find a place where I want it, and then I'm going to finish felting it on the piece. So I'm kind of leaving it standing up a bit, and it looks a little big for this piece with the stem, so I'm just going to stab it down, stab it in, maybe roll it over a little bit, and just stab it into place. And there we go. So in about, well, it's 7:30, so less than half an hour, we've made a little pumpkin. Now I'm going to do this 2 more times, but at totally different ways to do this. Not totally different, but different. So I'm going to give you, with the next one, it's a little bit of a different way and also a different technique. So I'm going to be able to show you a totally different technique in needle felting. So how cool is that? We get to learn all kinds of different things. Hopefully, you'll stick with me. If you wanted to do the second pumpkin, now's the time to take out your wool. And we're going to start with the core wool. So the whitish wool. And you can tell it's core wool versus batting versus roving, because like I said, the roving is very different. Roving is long fibers, they're combed all in the same direction. They're usually solid colors, although you can get them twisted in these beautiful rainbow colors. I find those difficult to work with because I like kind of the uniform. Except for this, which, let me switch over to the closer camera here. See all those different colors in there? The person I got this from uses a different kind of technique. It's hand dyed, and every batch is unique and different. I love it so much. Thanks, Brenda. Yeah, it's so forgiving, and it's such a craft that you could do like whenever. I love sculpting with clay, but you have to kind of set aside a time, do what you're gonna do, and then store it, and you have to put it, wrap it all up or whatever. But this, it's like sculpting, but it's dry, so you don't have to worry about it. So it's definitely my craft of choice. Now for the core wool, which is fluffier than the batting, and it's usually a little bit softer, and it's usually not dyed. It's pretty much always not dyed because it's meant to go inside. So if you look at this guy, which I was gonna cover in a color, but I ended up just leaving because I liked it so much. Statler Waldorf. He's actually made out of core wool, so you can see a little off-color. It's natural white, whereas this is dyed, bleached, batting. This is the core wool. This is the batting. So if you get a kit from me with the pumpkins, you'll get core wool, and you'll get the batting, and that is available on my Etsy shop. So I'm going to take a piece, put it on my pad. Again, start with the same basic roll. Roll, roll, roll. Fold in. Fold in. Never heard of it? Yeah, that's great. I love I love doing something that's not like totally like a trend. So like resin is everywhere now, but I don't think needle felting will ever get to that like trend status, which I am perfectly fine with. A lot of people have sent me things that they've found on Pinterest or Instagram. They say, is this real or is this felted? So I'm very good at telling the difference, especially moths, butterflies. People are so talented when it comes to crafts and sculpting and art. It's unbelievable. So again, this is my core of the pumpkin, so I'm going to just felt it up a little bit, leave it a little soft so that I can add more to it. Kind of like with clay, if it's dry clay and you're trying to attach a piece, it's not going to work. You're going to have to use glue. But with this, you need to leave it fuzzy, because if you felt it all together so it's so dense, you won't be able to attach it. I'm going to take another piece, just like we did before, and this right now I'm just kind of building up layers. We're not going to stop with just one or two. We're going to keep going. But I don't need to felt the second one as much as the core, and I don't need to go deep into this piece either. I'm just felting this top piece onto the core. And again, the more you move it, stab, 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 turn, the more symmetrical this is going to be. And since this is the inside of a pumpkin, we do kind of want it to start off, at least, pretty round. And then as we work on stabbing it into the veins, that's when it will start to flatten out a little bit and get that pumpkin shape, although this one's pretty tall. Again, all pumpkins are different. I always look for those crazy ones. Did you guys see those pink pumpkins that came out a few years ago? I'm gonna have to start making needle felted pink pumpkins too. Take another piece. Again, just gently pull it apart. Put it down. This is coral, so it's going to be a little bit fuzzier than the orange, where I pulled it apart so that it wasn't that thick. This is fine. It's coral. That's just how it is. Wrapping it around this ball that we've made. Don't need too many stabs, just need to get it stabbed in place. It's nice and flat. If you get a seam, like this is gonna all come up here. So say I did this, you're gonna get a seam here. What you can do is pull off a piece and then flay it out a little bit and then roll it around. And then if you want to thicken that piece in that part, you can just add that back, but I don't usually have a need to do that. Okay, so almost done with this layer. And I think I'm going to go for something about maybe this size. Which means we're pretty much good because it's almost that size, and then with the orange on top, it'll be about that big. Okay, so the core wool is really good because it's cheaper than the batting because it's not as processed. It's not bleached, it's not carded, it's not, they card it a little bit to get some of the impurities out, like the hay and stuff that the sheep eat. You can roll it in your hands to smooth it out a little bit too. They do make great pin cushions for sewing. I've made a few. I made a cactus one. I thought that was pretty funny with the pins. Now I'm taking my orange, and this is stuff I want to pull in half and then take off a good sized piece. And this is a little too wide, so I'm taking some off. You just want it to barely, if not even, go all the way around because I'm going to roll this up into it. Get this piece of white out of here, or the core wool. And now, just like we were just adding the layers, I'm going to now make the orange. So again, the core wool is great for building up your pieces. And then you can use the more expensive batting, which still isn't that bad, really. You can buy an ounce, which sounds like not that much, but it's so light. An ounce goes a long way. For between $4 and $8, depending on what it is, where you get it. So it's not too bad. I get all my stuff from local people, not necessarily local to me. I'm in Connecticut. I do go, unfortunately, all of my resources in Connecticut have closed their doors now, not just because of COVID, but some of them. But the rest of them are in like New York, Maine, not too far. So here I am, almost at the end, and this is, I'm just thinking a little bit, should I pull this out? Should I roll it? Should I remove any pieces? I think I'm going to be able to be okay. And again, this is the part where I'm leaving it fluffy because I'm going to be making those veins into the pumpkin. So this is a little thick to me, so I'm pulling it apart a little bit, and let's see if I can get it flat enough. Otherwise, I'll just pull off a piece. Sometimes I pull off too much and you'll get a hole, and that's perfectly fine. Just work with what you have. It's super easy, and then put some back. The thing to keep in mind is to make it so that it's about the same level of felted, so how dense it is. You want that to be kind of consistent all the way around. And if it's not 100% the same all the way around, that's fine too. Because we're making something that's, I mean, pumpkins, like I said before, they're not perfect. Felt that right down. So now I'm just going to take a quick peek as I'm turning it one more time. This piece is a little light. Oh, let's see if I stab it a little bit more. Let's add another tiny piece here. Felt that down. Alright, so now it's nice and fluffy. If I do the pull test, it will come apart, but that's okay. That's where we want it for this project. And now we just kind of do what we did before. I'm going to make a divot in the top. Flip it over. Now that's the bottom. I'm going to make a divot here. And then I'm going to connect the dots. So I'll lay it on its side, roll, stab at an angle till I hit that bottom mark. Maybe I'll go back a little bit, make it a little bit more dense, and then I'm going to continue that so that I can go all the way around to the other side. This one curved a little bit because I was a little off, but that's okay. Perfect. Great. Turn it 90 degrees. Stab, stab, stab. Go backwards, and now I'm going the other way. So I made the butt, and then I made the now it's got 4. And now I'm going to just stab in a whole bunch of additional veins. Maybe 2 in this little section here. Anybody have any questions? Gonna add another one right in here. Maybe I'll add 2 more over here. So go by the business name Needle Felted Fuzzies, and you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, my website, Etsy. It's all the same name, Needle Felted Fuzzies, Fuzzies. I would appreciate a follow and a share. And I am on Instagram the most, but I am on Facebook pretty much all day too. My day job is marketing, so I get to play on Facebook all day for a living, which is awesome. So I'm going to leave the veins there. Hopefully that's the actual name. I'm not quite sure. I make it look easy. Well, I have been doing it for a while. I'll have to get a needle in your hand pretty soon, Maria. I see a little piece here that kind of came apart because, like I said, it was fuzzy. I'm just going to add a little bit more. I could probably leave it because it'll probably be covered up by the stem. But I'm just going to add a little bit there. Flip it over, take a look. Okay, cool. Just going to make some of these a little bit more visible. I think I'm going to add another one in here. I'm sorry if I keep putting my elbows down and if the camera shakes. That's why. Now you can hear it a lot more than, say, over here. That means it's getting dense. I'm so fast, I'm sorry. If you're following along and you need me to go slower, let me know. I can knock out some of these pumpkins really quick. trying to go a little slower. If it's understandable, I hope that is important to me, so let me know. Let me make a couple more of these just a little bit more visible. And then on this bumpy part here, it's got a little too fuzzy for me, so I'm gonna stab not all the way in. I'm gonna stab just like shallow, because I want just this part to get felted but not pushed into the pumpkin. And I saw that little piece down here become a little naked, so I'm gonna cover that up. Just follow those veins. Yeah. They actually make a machine that will do this. It looks kind of like a mixer, like a hand mixer. But that's half the fun. Just stab, stab, stab. Release a lot of stress from the day. I guess this is the people who need to get things done quickly. Okay, so I'm going to leave this one and start making the stem. I put that aside. And I think this time I'm going to grab, there we go. Here's another color. This is from the same person that I got this orange wool from. So this is about an ounce. So you can see about how much you get for about, I think this one was $8. I'm gonna pull off a piece. And again, I'm going to start with that basic roll. Fold in the sides. Pull towards me along the pad. Roll, roll, roll. Stab, stab, stab. And again, I'm stabbing away from myself. It looks like I'm really close to my fingers. And I'm going pretty fast, but it actually is pretty safe because I'm pointing it away from me. And I kind of even go along my nail. Oh yeah, you've heard of needle felting, but you've never seen it done? Yeah. A lot of people ask me, what's inside? And I say, no, it's 100% wool. This is what it is. I mean, sometimes I use core wool inside, and they can't believe it. So I tell people it is so much better to see than to talk about. When I do vendor fairs, I sit there and make stuff just so people can see what I'm doing. Okay, so stem, meat pumpkin. Stab that in. Once I stab it in and it stays, then I can go around the base. And actually, I think this one, if I push it down, so I'm going to push it down like this, and I'm going to see what happens, because sometimes I can get that base to be a little bit thicker, and then the stem kind of looks like it has a kink. Yeah, like that. So if I switch cameras, you can see it straight on. I like that. So let's go back to here, and I will do some, I think some green leaves, and then a stem, or a curly vine, and then we'll go on to the third piece. So for the vine, twist, twist, twist. Thanks, Maria. Yes, I make the sassy petunias, which I don't have any more of. They've all been shipped out to their new homes. And I do have the magnets, though, but they're upstairs. So if you see me do this, it's just felting it a little bit more. Same thing as rolling in my hands. This just takes a lot longer. And the more, like if I hold this one up versus if I hold up, let me see what I'm trying to say here. So do this, you can kind of see it wants to fold over, and this one straight. That means it's going to be, it's not going to twist together as much, it's going to make like a spring because it's stiffer. So for this one, that's what I'm doing. And like, I don't know if you could tell, but I have no like pattern that I follow. I kind of just let the wool speak to me. I know it's so artsy fartsy, but I totally get it. Let me do that again. Need more sassy petunias. Okay, I'm on it. Roll, 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 roll. Twist, twist, twist. Maybe I'll stab this in a little bit too. Now this is a fresh pad, but when I get going, sometimes I get like big divots in them and the wool gets stuck to it because I'm making these flatter things. But I got a fresh one out just for you guys. Stab that under, twist, twist and pinch, twist and pinch. Sometimes I like to twist and kind of shape it as I'm going. Twist it around itself. Yeah, that one kind of looks good. Stab that down. Now, Maria saying takes talent, and I was just talking to her about this. She has the talent for cooking. I'm not. My father's a chef. I am not a very good cook, nor do I like it or have the patience for it. So if I don't have like a recipe and a plan, I don't do it. This, however, I lose track of time. I'll sit there on the couch sometimes. The only time of day I get to sit on the couch. I have a 7-month-old. The only time I get to sit on the couch and relax is after he's asleep and I'm watching TV. Usually it's YouTube, to be honest. And I'll stab and I'll make things. I've got a commission. I've got to do 10 more fox potatoes. So that'll be fine by next week. I actually have 7 of them almost done. For the leaf, I'm just going to gently roll and fold because it's a bigger piece. It's just a different way of doing the leaf too than the stab into the pad and then fold that I was doing before. Yeah, so sometimes I just sit there and I'll start felting and then pretty soon I look up and it says 2 a.m. and I say, oh crap. Again, flipping it to the other side because it sticks in and gets fuzzy. And I'm kind of going on an angle here to get those loose fibers packed in. Victor's adorable. Yes, he is adorable. Although I hear him screaming up there. Hopefully you guys can't hear it. My husband's with him upstairs. This one actually came out like a really cute leaf. Look at that. I'm going to put that right here. Again, just stab that in. Mostly in the middle. And then poke it in the side. So I'm going to leave it standing up. There we go. Flip over here. You can see the leaf in the back. Oh my goodness, there we go. So that's pumpkin number 2. Oh, I lost my first pumpkin. No, it's over here. Got pumpkin 1, pumpkin 2, and now I'm going to show you a third way to make these little pumpkins. And like I said, the core wool, if you get some of that, you can make these as big as you want. I mean, I've seen people make needle felted pumpkins this big. And you can also use things like stuffing. You can use polyfill. It's not as easy to felt onto though, so it's a little bit of a challenge. And so I don't usually suggest that for anybody who's just starting out. Oh, thank you. Let's see, we have love these, looks great, beautiful. Thank you guys so much. Oh, and there's my husband. He's fine. Keep going. You're doing great. Oh, he's watching. How nice. Hi. So the third one I'm going to do just like I did the second one with the core wool, and then we're going to add the orange, but it's going to be a different way. So I'm going to just do this part really quick. I wanted to do it and not make one prepared, just so you can see it again, because I feel like if you watch it once, it might get in, but if you watch it 3 times, it'll stick a little bit more. And I'm being lazy with this one. I'm not doing the little cord and stabbing it in place, but I think you guys will forgive me. Again, stab, 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 turn. Stab, 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 turn. I do miss doing live classes, and I did do those all year long, at like 4 different locations 2 years ago, and then last year I was pregnant, but I still did a whole bunch of classes. And then this year COVID hit, and I have not done a class in person since I think I've done one this year in Easton. I'm not even sure if I did one though, because I took the first couple of months off because I was, a little preoccupied in January with the baby. And then COVID hit, so I wasn't able to do any more in-person classes, but I did do a couple virtual classes, which were fun. I did those for an art school in Easton. And now I'd like to get into some more of these virtual classes and do a few more of these live demos. So if you guys have any ideas of what you would like to watch me make, let me know. If it's something that's fairly easy, kind of like the cat, it's fairly easy. I know you guys, like, you see those paint and sips and you see some of the paintings and they're like, holy crap, I can't do that. Oh, New Hampshire or New Haven? New Hampshire? New Hampshire's awesome. I've been there a few times. So is New Haven. I live really, really close. But I think you mean New Hampshire. A witch? Oh man, I forgot my witch. I had one upstairs I was gonna show you. I'll post a picture later. I had a witch holding a pumpkin. Yes, Zoom classes. And that's actually... No, I use Skype with my classes in April and May. But I should get into doing Zoom. My classes are usually 2 hours. Hippo? Look what I found. My hippo that I made 3 years ago. Okay, I think I'm going to do one more layer. Build this one up. And then I can have a mini, a medium, and a larger one. This next technique I'm going to show you works easier on bigger pumpkins. Anyway. Stab, 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 turn. Using my fingers to fold everything in. Gnomes? I've done gnomes. Gnomes are one of the first things I did, actually. Those would be fun. Could do these acorns, too. It's real acorn caps with needle felted nuts, and then I string them up or leave them in for pictures, or put them in little like bowls for my table, or my like an accent table for the holidays. Yes, New Hampshire. It's awesome. I actually saw that the man in the stone, I forget what it's called, before it fell. We were so bummed when it fell. Okay. Stab, 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 stab. Okay. They actually do, and I do have upstairs in my toolkit, I have what they call a pen tool, which is basically looks like a pen, and you screw the top on, and you can fit up to 3 needles in. I find working with 2 needles in that is very easy, but anything more than 3, I mean, they make them with... I also have a tool that holds up to 10, I think, needles, maybe 8. But I find the surface area of the needles is too large to like actually get into the piece. I'd much rather work with just a needle And you can always tell it's a needle felting needle even without feeling the barbs because it has this hook on it. And interesting story, hopefully. This is how the Old Man of the Mountain, yes, that one. Interesting story, yeah. So these needles were actually, they hook into a machine and there's hundreds of them and they all go down and needle felt the flat sheets. That's kind of how those flat sheets used to be made. Maybe still are, I'm not quite sure. When you buy felt at like Michael's Craft Store or Walmart or whatever, that's how they're made. So somebody, and I have the whole story up on my website under, I think, History of Needle Felting. That's how somebody took a needle from the machine and started using it to make art, just like with the raw wool, and that's how needle felting came to be, in a nutshell. So this is the medium one that we just finished. This is the snowball that we have now. And here is the new part that we haven't talked about yet. So I'm going to take that same batting, and actually I think I'm just going to first wrap this ball in it, and I'm not going to worry about holes because you'll see in a minute. Just to get a base of orange down. And I'll leave one side open so you can actually see the technique too. Because now I'm thinking about it, it might be a little difficult to see orange on orange. So it's a little bit of an experiment for me tonight here too. Okay. Stab that on. Okay. There we go. Now I'm going to take kind of a smaller piece. I'm going to put this on my pad. And I'm going to just get the middle piece so that it starts to stick together. But I'm going to leave it really fluffy. I'm going to put this back on here. And I'm going to go from one side to the other. So let me make that divot so you can see where the top and bottom are. Okay, so here is the top, and now it's bottom. And here is that divot. So now I still have the two pieces to connect, but instead of stabbing, I'm going to take this piece here and stab that on, and then I'm going to pull this piece down to the bottom, stab that in, and then I'm going to stab into the center of this piece that I just put on here. So I'm going to stab it in this way. I'm going to stab it in this way. I love fall too. And you'll notice I'm making pinched part. It opens up and then it pinches here. And I'm not going to worry so much about this because I did just stab a little bit and I can always go back and tweak it. Now I'm going to grab another piece. Do that same thing, tilt it up a little bit just in the center. Put a piece on the bottom. And put it up to the top. This one might not reach all the way, but that's okay because we're going to be putting another piece next to it and it'll all fill in. You can see this is why I put the orange layer down. Because in between these things you can see a little bit of white, but I am going to stab them together and hopefully close that up a little bit. Yes, so now we have individual sections. Now you can see that these are kind of small. You can make them smaller, you can make them bigger. Like, let me do a bigger one. So I'm actually going to take two pieces. Yeah, so you can make the sections either just with the needle, like we did the first two, or if you want, you can make them this way. So I'm going to stab these pieces together. I'm going to roll it on top of each other a little bit just to hide some of those seams. Yeah, I'm rocking the table again. Sorry, guys. Okay, pull it off my pad. This is going to be the bottom. I'm not going to worry about the fuzz this time. Stab that into one side. Roll that down and stab that under here. And then we're going to stab them together. And then stab the other side down. Just a little bit. I'm going to get all of them on before I really go back and tweak all of these to be final. So you can see that this piece is sticking out a little bit more than maybe I want it to, but I'm going to go back to it, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. That reminds me, every November I do this thing called NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. I'm going to do it again. Where the goal is to write 50,000 words in 30 days, which is about 1,667 words or 2,000 words a day. Every single day in November. It's a little crazy. This will be my 11th year doing it. I'm the regional leader here in Southern Connecticut. But the whole point, in order to get 2,000 words written a day, you know what you need to do? Not edit. So what I'm going to do here, just because if... well, no, it's fine. But what you can do is leave a gap and then fill in the gap, and then we kind of visualize how much you need. Maybe I'll do that just to show you. Needle felting is such a forgiving craft. It really is. So you can do whatever you want. I mean, nobody taught me to do this. I made this technique up myself. This is gonna, yeah, that'll fit. It's a little bit bigger, which is perfect because I stab it a little bit smaller. What you can do too is use a different color. So maybe I'll do that next as well. So you can have, like this one has a malted effect because I mixed two colors together. This one, maybe I'll use a different color for one of the sections. So sometimes the tricky part is just getting it into this area without stabbing it on top of the pieces that are next to it. So this is not going to fill in that whole section, which is fine because then I'll just add another one. Stab that in. This piece, however, at the bottom filled in, which is good because then I'll just fill in from here to here because not all the sections on a pumpkin go all the way up to the top and all the way to the bottom. Some of them kind of start here. Okay. Stab in another piece. And like I said, not going to go all the way to the top. I'm just kind of filling in this gap here. Kind of stabbing them together at this point. The two sections. So this process takes a little bit longer than just stabbing the lines in. But you can see what a different effect this gives off. And if you really wanted to make it the sections very visible, then what you could do is really work on the piece on the pad before you stab it on. So the more you work on it here, and the more you build it up, the more wool you use, the thicker that piece will be. Really want to get it into that point at the bottom here. Closing up the gap a little bit, but leaving them fairly open so you can really see it. Alright, so let's try to get 3 more in here. It's a little long. Again, stab, 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 stab. I used to do kickboxing, and I was needle felting all the time. So the joke in my house was, oh, you don't have any stress, do you? In fact, I did have a lot of stress. That was the year I was getting married, so yeah, stress. So what I'm doing is, instead of putting it right up against this piece, because it was starting to look a little crooked, so I just went straight down the center here just to line these pieces, refocus what I'm doing here, and now I can kind of visualize this. Okay, one nice big thick piece here. Poor me, why poor me? I don't have that much, well, I do have a lot of stress, but now I can handle it a lot better. Stab, 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 stab. And for those of you who know Maria and are talking to her, I'm on her Sassy group. So she has Gelzinia's Journey Facebook page. She lost 130 pounds last year in 10 months. It's unbelievable. And I have been following what she was doing, and I'm down 18 pounds in 2 months. So it definitely works. And I'm breastfeeding. I have to be careful, but it is safe. It is good. I don't feel hungry all the time like I used to. It's awesome. It's basically, and it's flexible. So I do my version of it, and she does her version, and everybody else in the group kind of does what they need to do with it. So what I'm doing is intermittent fasting and keto, and I focus on eating really big salads too. So most of the day I eat between 1 and 6. Got a fairly large window, got to keep up with the baby. I'm gonna make one more big one. And if you follow Gelzinia's Journey, she also has a group, and that's why everybody's saying Sassy Petunia. Sassy Petunia is the mascot, and I made Sassy Petunia needle felted items, or little hippos, and I make them in magnets and 3D pieces, and small ones, larger ones. You can see I'm kind of shaping this one because I do want to fit it into this area here. So if you join Gelzinia's Journey, and then you want to join the group, it's called Maria's Sassy Squad. For Sassy Petunia, and because we are all sassy. Which is an awesome thing. Okay, let's see here. How did I do? Pretty good. Like I said, and what I was doing before, if it doesn't fit, just make another one. Another little section, that's all. Needle felting is a very forgiving craft. I can't crochet or knit or embroider for the life of me. I'm not that kind of person. I don't have the patience. I don't have the patience really is what it comes down to. I do not have the patience to sit there and do stitch, 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 count stitch. No, oh man, I messed up. I gotta redo. Nope, not for me. Yes, we all are sassy. So come on over and join us there. It's a ton of fun. And then, of course, you can always catch me here on needle felting. All right, is that big enough? So we have 1, 2, and now we have this giant one. So now let me make a stem for this one. Move these back over out of the way. And I think I will use that brown again. I really like the way that those two colors meshed. Now I just have to keep in mind, we need a bigger stem for a bigger pumpkin. I'm going to roll, 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 fold, fold, roll again. Although I did have a couple of ladies last year who made these teeny tiny little, just a little tiny bit of a stem and then these huge vines. Those looked really good too. One of these days I'll have to do that one. The varieties are endless. If you want to get started with needle felting, I've got some videos on my website, so you can get a starter kit from me and then take the videos, or wait for the next class to come up, which will probably be in about 2, maybe 3 weeks, depending on my schedule. And I'm hoping that I can get some suggestions. I like the witch. Not sure if I can do one that's a super beginner project. I'm going to leave this a little floppy because I'm going to finish making this on the pumpkin. I'm going to push it down, straight down into the pumpkin like I did before with the last one. Turn around, push, stab it straight through. And that way it makes it a little bit fatter on the base. I can go straight through, and that kind of makes it push down a little bit. There we go. And now, let's do a really long vine. So like this one, some beautiful vines that came all the way down more than halfway. So maybe we could do one like this. And again, like I said when I started doing this, that I can go back and finish these up. So remember that the way that you poke the needle in is the direction that the fibers will go. I'm not going to sit here and do all of these because it looks alright right now. But after this is over, after the live is over, perhaps I will go back and finish up a little bit. Like I'd probably, now that I'm looking at on the camera, this one might be pushed in a little bit more, just to make it a little bit more symmetrical. I happen to like it symmetrical, and sometimes I like it asymmetrical. Thank you. I stab my fingers quite often. If I did a zoom in on my finger, you can see a lot of stab marks. I am a lot better than I used to be. I'm just rolling this in my hands. But I still get myself quite often. You'll learn to be okay with it. Or you'll learn how to avoid hurting your finger. Most of the time, I don't hit my finger anymore, but a lot of times I do. So again, underneath the stem, I'm going to twist this. I'm not going to twist it as much. I'm kind of going to do it myself instead of, although I do want it a little bit thinner. So I'm going to thin it out while I'm twisting that section. And then I will just turn and lay it down. So it'll have a little twist up at the top. And then I'm going to leave it kind of sitting off of the pumpkin like that. Yeah. It does have to attach a little bit just to have some stability. I'll add green. Oh, better grab some more. Okay. Thin this out a little bit. I do also have finger protectors. They're these little like leather things that go on your index finger and your thumb. I don't like using them because I like to use my fingers to manipulate the wool. And also, it's not 100%. And also, when you do that, you have a tendency to, when you have the finger protectors on, you do this. And then you're using a finger that's not protected. So, they're also tricky. And I just learned to live with the stabs. Somehow, at one point, I managed to stab in here. I don't know how I did that. That was not a fun night. Stab that underneath. You can see the wool just disappear. It goes right underneath. Turn, twist it, twist it, twist it, just so that it's all nice and kinked, and let it kind of fall where it wants to fall. And I'm stabbing right in the center of that twist. Make it a little bit more defined. And to steady it onto the pumpkin. There we go. And let's make a leaf, and then we'll put it over here, and then I think we're done. So now that we're kind of on the other side of this, you saw the fluffy wool turn into 3 different pumpkins with stems and vines. If you want to buy your own kit from me, I do have them listed, just $10 or $12 on my Etsy shop. If you are local to me, I'm again near New Haven in Connecticut, I can drop it off to you. If you want me to put it in the mail, I will do that. If you want to just buying it from Etsy is the easiest, but if you want to avoid Etsy for any reason, then you can just direct message me and we will go from there. I'm going to show you another quick little trick, kind of hint hint, to make it pop a little bit more, like the ears on the cat. Keep bringing up that cat. Maybe I'll have to do the cat. I have a triangle here. I'm going to gently put this side to this side. and I'm going to stab the two sides together. That's all that there is to it. Make an ear, make a leaf, and then when I put it on the pumpkin, I just kind of lay it on its side and stab it down a little bit. Okay. Let's go ahead and switch over to this camera. I'm going to put all my pumpkins in a nice little... I'm going to use these needles to stab them into the pad so that they'll stay. I'm going to lift it up and you can see them all together. There we have it. And like Maria was saying, I could just put them together like this and make a little centerpiece. Or make a like a little thing you could put on a candle holder or just on the mantle or something like that for decorations. Maybe on my welcome table. And I'm going to finally get to string these little guys. So look for garlands in my Etsy shop and look for these other pumpkins and things. I have a whole, in my Etsy shop, I have a Halloween shop. So if you can't tell, I'm a big Halloween person. I love it. I have my little Snow White inspired poison apple. I love them. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked this, share it with somebody that might be interested. Let me know if you want me to do another one of these. Like I said, maybe 2-3 weeks from now. I'll be thinking Halloween, so maybe if I could do a witch in a fairly reasonable time. I do like to also put together the kits ahead of time and get them ready, so if you want to felt along with me, you can purchase the kit. I keep it really inexpensive, like around $10 to $15, and we will go from there. So again, thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful, wonderful night, and I will see you online, if not in person somewhere someday. It was so nice to hear from everybody. Have a beautiful night. Thank you.